David Pollack joins us. David, you gave a response that said, of course, everybody thinks women shouldn't have to compete against men in women's sports. David, it's the dumbest conversation, not possible, but certainly among the dumbest possible, is it not?
Make common sense common again, Dan, right? Like, I mean, it seems listen, here's the thing. Growing up, Dan, like, you played sports. We played sports. And it was very clear the difference when one started to hit puberty. Like, you stayed away from the other. Like, when that testosterone for boys started to hit and you started to build muscle at a rate that was absolutely stupid, and you started to move way faster than the girls, and you started to get way bigger than the girls, it made a lot of sense that you didn't see that. And by the way, we aren't seeing a lot of girls line up to go, I'd like to go play men's tackle football, please. Like, that's and there's a reason for that. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's very commonsensical, but there's, this world is definitely we're still talking about things that we probably shouldn't be.
It's amazing. I remember Jennifer Wellman, she played with us and then she didn't. Because all of a sudden we got a little bit bigger, a little bit older. Next thing you know, she did. It astounds me. And Herb Street Steel. Hey, what'd you think? You were at ESPN. Sam Ponder and I worked together at ESPN with Mike Tirico on Tuesday Night Basketball. There's no way anybody's going to tell me it's budget cuts 3 weeks before the NFL season. What'd you think about Ponder and RG3 getting the boot there?
It is interesting timing with the season coming right up around the corner. But listen, I've lived it, right? Like, Dan, I was in these exact shoes the year before. And, it's part of the deal that budget cuts are a part of the conversation every year. And you always wonder, like, dang, man, and I had a guy text me last year or 2 years ago before I got fired. And he was like, man, thank God we made it. And my news hadn't come out yet. And I was like, well, one of us made it, the other one didn't make it. So you kind of live by that, and you kind of wonder, because I don't know what it is, but apparently, with the contracts with ESPN, there's always somebody that needs to be cut, and there's always somebody that it doesn't add up to what they want it to add up to, and they make changes, and that's the way it works. And listen, Sam and RG3 will be just fine. Like, both those are extremely talented. They're cool cats. They're good at their jobs. Like, they're not people that are going to be hurting to find work in the future.
Do you think Sam got the boot because of her views not aligning with ESPN? A lot of people are saying that. She supported Herb Street when he was on our show, made those comments. She put out X, what is it, XY greater or equals men, XX equals men. You think that was a part of it, or do you think that's just too obvious and media blowing that up?
Man, I think that's a hard thing to always answer, Dan, and because you're not in those rooms and you don't want to assume things, but Sam is good at her job, and Sam has been pretty outspoken, which is good. There's a lot of people, by the way, that have been outspoken. I'll say this: if you have a certain view that is contrary to a company that you serve with, and you share it frequently, like, a lot of times what will happen is this exact thing can't happen. Just it takes one person that wants to be able to get rid of you. Do I think that was the sole reason? No, I don't think it's the sole reason. But do I think that kind of stuff weighs into decision making subconsciously or consciously? Of course, with every corporation, with every company, you take all things into consideration. But I think we can all look at each other and go, I'm pretty sure it wasn't performance based. Like, she's really good at her job. She's professional. She works hard. So there's obviously all kinds of factors that go into making those decisions. But I'll say this too, Dan, and you'll probably ask me about this, but people that are talking about, like Dan Orlovsky, are you going to ask that? Are we going to talk about Dan? Like, people are going to talk about –
Not really, but go ahead.
Well, his comments. And, like, people called him – I saw people on social media attack him a little bit about, why would you retract the comment? Okay, it's not as easy as you guys think. When you have a job and they tell you, I remember sitting in the room and they tell you, like, your social media is your social media, but your points do reflect us, and you are a reflection of us. So what you say, it does matter. And we are watching what you say. So, everybody says, oh, you should just stand up for what's right. Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that's livelihood is attached to that, and that's their job. That's how they make money. And you're telling me, oh, I'll just walk away. It's just easy. Like, there's a lot of people across the country that don't take stands on things for that exact reason, because they could lose their job and because there are things like that that go into the mix. But you are well informed at ESPN. I can tell you from being in the meetings. I was told, Dan, like, your social media is a part of us and we're attached together because you're on our airways and we're putting you out all the time.
Yeah, Seth Greenberg and I, when we were both at ESPN, he's still there, but we were watching a debate, and we were kind of going back and forth. We weren't really serious. We were just like, yeah, that guy should do this. Oh, man, Norby called us the next day, man. Norby was on the horn the next damn day, right? Basically.
What did he say? We don't do politics? Is that what he said?
He said, we you know what? We don't. This is before they made the big move that we don't do politics. You know, they made a big move there. But, yeah, it was basically, you know what? Why don't you two just social media about your shows, your podcasts, and your sport? So, yeah, okay.
But Dan,
you know, at the time, I had to put kids through college. Yeah.
Yes, but isn't that interesting? Like, it is certain viewpoints that, like, we don't want you to talk about, but there are certain viewpoints that we are very much willing and capable to talk about that it's not a big deal. And y'all can see that. Y'all watch the television. Like, there's a lot of times when you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem to make sense. If you can't say this, you can't say that. And then there's some people that transcend, by the way. And there's some people like Charles Barkley that he can say whatever the heck he wants to say. Like, there are those few people like that can do whatever they want to do. But the other ones, it's definitely a different stick.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're coaches, so we're going to argue. We're like, wait a second, what about him? What are you talking about? Jalen's on TV talking about, hey, we're not talking about Jalen, we're talking about you, Dan. Okay, you're right. They always got an answer for it, right? Like, all right. Yeah, hey, let's talk some football. Georgia, your school, number one, a lot of off-field activity, bad, not good. Does that impact how does that impact the modern college football team?
Well, I mean, it's part of it. I think that now when you have – so we had all these things, Dan, back in the day, right? And you had, the popularity and the stuff that went with it. But now you got so much social media. Now you got coin. Like, now you got money to buy nice cars. And at Georgia, man, the worst thing they've done in the last several years, I think they're like 42-2 on the field. But, my goodness, they've got a lot of speedings and a lot of car incidents, and that's something that's definitely affects your team. And listen, one of their receivers, Ra Thomas, gets kicked off, who was going to be a key contributor. So I think it's the only thing that's really slowed Georgia down and gotten their way. And, Kirby's obviously addressed it, and he's brought people in to address it. But it's something with these kids nowadays, man, when you got some coin and you got nice cars, like, you're going to do some things that probably I would have gladly done if I had money, but I didn't have any money to buy cars and to do some of that stuff. But here's the thing with Georgia. I agree with Georgia being number one, Dan. There's no way Georgia finishes the regular season at number one. There's no way. Like, there is 4 teams in the SEC in the top 6. They play the other 3, and they're on the road. They play them on the road. And guess what? The other 3 don't play each other. They just play Georgia. So, like, I could definitely see a world where Georgia's watching the SEC championship game and still go to the college football playoff, because that schedule – and then you add Clemson away from home at that schedule. You had Tennessee at home. Like, that schedule is absolutely brutal.
That's why I like LSU. Like, when I always look at schedules, David. I looked at LSU's schedule, and I always look at the road games because, let's be honest, if you're going to be really
thing to
good,
do in college football.
You got to go into play.
Yep.
Their road schedule's nice. They don't have to go to Georgia. They don't have to go to Alabama. They got Arkansas, a couple others. That's what I look at. So let me go this route with you. Alabama, look, when I was at Indiana with Coach Knight, it was a pressure cooker, right? I mean, you're supposed to win. You're supposed to win at a massive level, Big Ten title, go deep in the NCAA tournament. Alabama, now the guy following Bob Knight, that ain't easy. Guy following Nick Saban. As I don't know if it's impossible, but it ain't easy. What is an expectation? What is the expectation for year one for Caleb DeBoer?
Listen, Kalen DeBoer is a really good football coach, like really good football coach. And he's done it.
Like that's the thing that, like, when you can coach football, you can coach it anywhere. And Alabama is a place that's set up to succeed. When I look at this team, the frontline depth, Dan, is really good. Like the starters are really good. There's still 5 stars littered throughout the roster. To me, it's the guys. There's a bunch of guys that when Saban left, the transfer portal went nuts. And there's a bunch of guys that probably wouldn't have left otherwise. And so I think, do they stay healthy? Their schedule is really good. Here's the thing I'll say about Alabama. They're ranked probably maybe a little bit low, which is crazy. And that doesn't happen very often because here's the thing. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive wizard. He's a great offensive play caller. He's always been good at it. What if Milroe takes a step and a leap, just a 5% leap, 10% leap, 15% leap in the passing game and really gets better at seeing things and the system's better and the screen game comes alive and that's going to be a tough QB to handle. That's a guy that's going to be at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So I think Alabama, obviously new era, new challenges, but the challenges to me are with depth. The challenges to me, if they stay healthy, Alabama's going to be in the playoff. And I like the way Kalen DeBoer has handled himself, by the way. He's not worried about Nick Saban. Like, he's invited Nick Saban back. He wants him to be a part of it. Like that. Dan, you've been around coaches. I know coaches specifically, they're like, well, that guy goes out the door. I don't want him around. Like, he's too big of a shadow because Nick Saban cast a huge shadow. But I think he's done everything the right way and is a heck of a football coach. And if the recruiting can continue to be really solid, he's going to be really good at Alabama.
It's funny. When I left Indiana, became a head coach at Bowling Green, I said, I'm going to be the first coach to take over for another coach that speaks nice and invites the previous coach back. Because you always hear the coach going, well, we're doing things different. We're going to blah, 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 blah. Like, hey, man, shut the hell up. I am fascinated, though, about a couple of things. Seriously, it's like, come on. I am fascinated about a couple of things. One of is Notre Dame. Notre Dame seemingly, everybody tells me, can recruit anybody, but this is the second year in a row, for lack of a better way to put it, they're recruiting a quarterback that they've bought. What's your, I live in Indiana. Basically, I hate to say it this way, but IU and Purdue football, it's all right. It's not like you got, but Notre Dame's a different deal. What good schedule, great schedule, new quarterback. What are your thoughts on Freeman, Notre Dame, as we head into another year?
I think this is a big year, and it's going to be interesting with them, Dan. I think they're one of the teams that are probably going to benefit the most from the 12-team playoff. And I say that because every time everybody's fighting for these SEC championship game spot, ACC championship game spot, Notre Dame doesn't have to fight for that. So when the SEC beats each other up in the SEC championship game, the loser of that game, it's going to be like, where do we slide? And, oh, yeah, Notre Dame was on a bye week. Like, Notre Dame didn't play. So to me, that's going to be an advantage. Listen, they got to go to A&M week 1. I think that's going to be really tough for them. Like, that's going to be a tough game. If they win that game, you're right. Their schedule is not bad. Riley comes over from Duke. He's a dual threat guy. He's a really good quarterback. This offense has been it's been okay. Even with Sam Hartman that came in, like, I don't think I've ever looked at this, but I do think when you steal LSU's offensive coordinator, I think they exponentially got better at the OC spot. Like, exponentially. I think Notre Dame's offense, because of that, will take off. You saw Jaden Daniels last year. Like, they had a system. They had a plan. Listen, they had freaks everywhere, too. Don't get it wrong. Like, you saw Malik Neighbors and those guys get drafted. But I don't think Notre Dame has the same freaks out wide. The offensive line's not as strong as it was. But I think just with the addition of the OC, a really strong defense, Notre Dame's very much going to be in the playoff hunt. And I'll be just interested to see. Again, we're learning on the fly, right, with this new committee. Like, how do you handle a Notre Dame team that's sitting there at the end of the year, everybody else playing? Does that loser automatically get slotted below them because they got another L on their resume?
Yeah, I mean, you guys in the SEC, you would love to see Army and Navy and Virginia on the schedule, man. You guys would be like, oh, yeah, bring it, baby.
No, Virginia, yes, but you don't want the triple option, bro. That's hard to prepare for. You'll take the other ones.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the triple option, that's no fun. Yeah,
no, you don't want that one.
I forgot. Hey, David, let's talk about the Pollack Family Foundation. What's going on?
Man, we're doing some fun stuff. We just gave a car away, which was really, really cool. We're going to do another one, too, in January. You're just going to submit, like, why you falling on hard times, and we're literally going to hand you the keys to a car. We got the Banquet of Blessings coming up in November that we do every year, where we bring in – last year was 942 homeless. We bust them all in, and we served them served them a dinner, and they all got a coat and sleeping bags and hats and all kinds of good stuff. So we're trying to plug in and find some spots to do some good, and we've definitely got a cool community here in Athens that we get to do it with.
That's awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Always fun. Hope you'll come back when the season gets rolling.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bud.
Thanks, David. There he goes, David Pollack. Check him out, the Pollack Family Foundation. See how you can give, see how you can help, see how you can go about the business of helping somebody else. I can't wait for college football. We start this weekend, man. It's my favorite sport. I know I'm supposed to be a basketball guy, but I'd rather sit my fat ass down on a college football Saturday. I don't do it at noon because the noon game used to be the cure for insomnia. The noon Big Ten, Rutgers versus Minnesota, man, that thing puts you to sleep. Hey, thanks for being here. If you're an OutKick fan, you know we give it to you straight. Here on Don't At Me, we have a ton of fun. More content right here. And while you're at it, sack the hell up and be sure to hit that subscribe button now.